had occurred there of a special baby. And the first person this dean saw was me. Wow. And I said, oh, hello, how are you? You know, and I started explaining to them what was happening in D Block. Not one word. Wow. To the extent that when I learned that I'd been promoted to become professor, I also decided to be cantankerous. So I decided to look for money, booked for a celebration in Pamosi for all my staff, oh, wow. because I couldn't have been professor without my support staff. Even when I was doing research, I had to have my technicians on the bench working with me. Mm-hmm. When I was photocopying, I had my staff who were helping me photocopy. So I decided I should celebrate my staff. So what I did is I invited them all. I said, we're going to have early Christmas. Come. We are going to celebrate. And nobody knew. Then I went and bought gifts to say thank you to my staff. And I made sure that dean, I invited him. And then after everybody had eaten, happy, then I just said, well, and there was some function going on in next door by ZNBC. So then I said, oh, today is a special day because the Department of Pathology and Microbiology has produced the first woman professor. So everybody went crazy. So this dean said to me, no, I'm supposed to announce. I said, sorry, Bwana, it's over. Because you were told to tell me yesterday and you didn't want to tell me. So that's how Doreen Mkanzo, Mr. Mtubila heard all this commotion. Mm. They came to ask. And then they said, what has happened? So I said, look, I'm now a first woman professor. And at that time, I was very proud. I must tell you this. So Doreen Mkanzo and Frank Mutubila had to rush to ZNBC, popped a champagne, because we had champagne in the room, so they carried a bottle and said, here's a special item on news. Wow. Professor Luo becomes first woman professor. But let me tell you how I feel now. University of Zambia has been in place for a very, very long time. And followed by Copperbelt University and now Mulungushi and others. It is not possible for Zambia to have such few women professors. So I don't even talk about it anyway because I think it's embarrassing. And I know that the women are working very hard. And every time I reflect on my own journey. And I always say there must be a lot of women who have published, a lot of women who have written, who have researched, but because they are women, they are still lagging behind. And it's not possible that every time you're passing professors, it's always men. Because I know, especially that recently I was Minister of Higher Education, I know there are a lot of women who should be professors by now. So I think as we look at celebrating Women's Day, and now talking professionally, this is one thing I would like us to reflect on. Those of us who are professors, Professor Helis Ngambi, and who is the Vice Chancellor of Mulungushi University, the other professors who are at UNZA, we need to sit down and say, what is going on? Right. There should be more women professors by now. And I know how hard the women work. Some of them, I can't even mention them by name, who I think deserve to be professors by now. Excellent. Especially now that you can get up and the next day you're professor.
Excellent, Honorable. Now I'll take you to task a little bit on that because it's obvious that for men, they probably are united. That's how come they maneuver all these things. Do you perhaps agree with the notion of some people that women do not support each other a whole lot? Because you're saying going forward, you should interrogate why many women who have, produced quality papers, why they have not yet reached professorial level, and why haven't you done this in the past?
Well, let me tell you, that's why for me, I think if you have followed my life, apart from this professional work that I do a lot of community work. I talked about Society for Women and AIDS, and my major focus there is to educate the children, especially the girl children. And at one point, people were questioning why I was rehabilitating sex workers. Because I think that's the worst form of gender-based violence. And those women deserve better. And people were saying, why would a professor be working with sex workers? Yes. Professor will work with sex workers because I'm privileged. And I must give back to society. That is my position. The privileges that I have, I should give back to society. You may not even know this, that when I was Minister for Chiefs and Traditional Affairs, I mobilized resources to start with from the Gracia Michel Trust to start the campaign against child marriage that we celebrate now. And we went and launched it in Chipata, but because these things, people forget easily. They probably don't realize that who started this campaign. It's all an attempt to try and see how we can create space for the girl children, so that when they reach where we are, they will not be going through the experiences that we have gone through. And I want to agree with everybody, and I've said this, and I don't even apologize, that women don't support each other. That's fact. And nobody will take away. But the psychologists explain it. The psychologists explain that people who have been oppressed for a long time oppress others. So because women have been oppressed for a long time, the women tend to oppress others. If I take an example of my political career, the people who fight me in Munali are women. You find them going in front of, like right now, there's all this euphoria about candidates. Munali has all male candidates, and you watch the captions, you see women, the so-called chair ladies in front. Hey, this time we want a man. You understand? And they have no reason. Because Munali is where, as Member of Parliament, I'm very proud of what I've done. And I've used even the CDF very well. I've constructed buildings for everybody to see. I've empowered women. And nobody in Munali can even be talking about lack of empowerment, because it's been my agenda and I've been empowering different groups. But because the women won't support a fellow woman, they will do whatever they are doing. And all these men now have ganged up against us. You go to Petauke, it's men who are trying to outdo somebody who is so competent, who has made Zambia proud. That is a Cambridge fellow, Doris Leah. To be a Cambridge fellow in the world is something to celebrate about. Zambians, and especially the women of Zambia, should be proud that they have a woman like that in our government who is a Cambridge fellow. In Britain, when Dora arrives there, or in America or Europe, they hear Doris Leah is a Cambridge fellow. Everybody will celebrate. It's not easy for a person like me to be, one of the top-range graduates of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is part of London University. That's why I'm respected all over the world. It is they look at where I have studied. Moscow State University is the university of the world. When I led a delegation to Russia, the vice chancellor of Copperbelt University, even just the building, he said, "Oh, that's breathtaking." The ambassador in Russia, Zambian ambassador, was telling Russians that, oh, tomorrow my minister will be visiting the Moscow State University because she's an old scholar of Moscow State. Do you know what they told him? It's not possible for an African to have gone to Moscow State. So the ambassador said, well, here is her CV. They said, no. These lecturers had to come to where we were having a meeting to come and confirm that I'm a scholar of the Moscow State University. And they actually confessed that, we take our hat off you. Because to go to Moscow State, you have to be what is called Leninsky Atlichnik. That is a learning excellent student. You must pass every subject with a 5, which is excellent. Then when you are doing your preparatory faculty, then you can find yourself in Moscow State. And there are 2 of us from Zambia who found ourselves in Moscow State University with a colleague of mine, a doctor of physiology, Dr. Betty Mnalula. May her soul rest in peace. And these are things that Zambians should celebrate.
Absolutely.
Even in Munari constituency should be proud that they have a person of my caliber as their MP. But you find them, even little boys and what in German you call nikumpu, is busy insulting you. It's just not right. But they are insulting you because you're a woman. But some of us have stood up and said we are going to fight for women, and this is my agenda. Talk to anybody. For me, whether when I was at UTH, when I've been in politics, even in cabinet, everybody knows. Because I think somebody has to do it. And it requires a mindset change. We need to do a lot of sensitization of our women, especially the women in politics, to start supporting the female politicians.
Honorable Minister, I'll take you back a little bit to the days of, the organization that you started to try and rehabilitate the commercial sex workers. That was extremely commendable, because it's very rare that people will, stand up and say, let me bring the commercial sex worker out of the street, rehabilitate her, and turn her into a better person. How did that program work? Did it yield the desired results?
Well, it has, and I want to say that it's still on. Huh?
Oh, okay.
Stacinta, SWAS are programs that are still on, and they're very active. Just recently, we were writing a proposal jointly with Project Concern, so that we bring in some resources, more resources, because the demand is high. And apart from the monies we get elsewhere and through our rentals, we still need a lot of money. That program yielded results. Now let me tell you my own thought process. And people have asked me, did you succeed? That's the way they always ask. You know, for a woman to admit that they're a sex worker, and they actually come to the center, and now we are no longer at the center, we are in the communities, so that everybody can see that, yeah, that one is a sex worker. That in itself is an achievement. So for me, that's where I start measuring my achievement, that we are able to mobilize women in the community and start transforming them within the community. And those days when we're running the program at the center, they're able to come every morning to the center. That's one. The second level of success is for the women to agree to be integrated back in society. You know, those girls, they don't have a home. And they all live like they would rent a room. There will be about 10 of them in a room, and they will have just buckets and baths where they bath, and then they have all these, their minis, which they wear at night. If they become pregnant, when you hear of the children that are picked in the drainages, most of them are for sex workers. They go and also, one thing about sex workers, if you're talking about women who support each other, it's the sex workers. So if they'll even take turns to look after each other's babies. So, but when they join the center, we reintegrate them back in society. And then we rent them places within society. So for them to agree to be reintegrated back in society, and they start bringing back their children wherever they are, for me, that is a measure of success. But we also have lost a lot of them, because especially before the ARVs came to the table, a lot of them were dying from HIV because of the nature of their profession. But also, one thing that I should say, which has really amazed me, is how children from underprivileged homes do well in school. Because under Tacinta, we don't only rehabilitate sex workers, we also send their children to school. And the children have been doing so well. I was one time attending a graduation ceremony of one of the boys who passed his degree in mathematics with a distinction. Wow. Yeah. So it's a very successful program, and we continue. Right now, we are establishing a farm in Kabangwe, and we hope the girls can use the activities there for their livelihoods.
Extremely excellent, Honorable Minister. Now, before we get into your journey in the political arena, I just want to get clarity from you on the level of success that a woman gets to have? Is it to do with the support system that they get from home? And for instance, you did mention that you were married to the late Dr. Manda. Does a woman need support from, for instance, parents, siblings, spouses, for them to have the level of confidence that you have had that has propelled you to such extremely great heights and levels of success? What does it take? For instance, for me, if I am going to become a Professor Nkandu Luo at some point, there obviously are special circumstances. Do I need to have financial support? Because I can't just stand up and be what you have achieved without some level of support. Yeah. So do you feel it's also, do you also feel it's important, or can I do it on my own?
Yeah, well, I think it's a number of factors that help, and for some people, you need support from your family. But just support from your family is not adequate. You yourself must be determined. And you must decide, I'm going to be there. No amount of support from your family will take you there. If you are not determined. You have to be resilient, because the road is rough. And you can easily give up. I can say, no, I want to become a doctor. But the road to becoming a doctor is rough. So if you are not resilient, you are not determined, you don't have the passion for what you want to be, you won't get there. Because there are many children whose parents have given support, they've given them money, they haven't gotten there. So it has to be in you that, look, this is where I want to be tomorrow. Regardless of what hurdles that I meet, I will get there. And I'll give myself as an example. When I was going to Russia, I had 2 scholarships. One to go to Canada, one to go to Russia. I chose Russia because of the reading, that you're going to a country where everybody's equal, that you can leave your car on the street, nobody will steal it, So I said, no, I'm not going to Canada, I'm going to Russia. Then alas, I arrived in Russia. Unlike the ones who are going now, who even go to the Russian center to learn Russian, we didn't know. I learned the first word, "niet" and "da" at the airport. Okay. So, and then when we go to the airport, you try to speak to this one, "niet, niet, niet," then you don't know what "niet" means. And we were lost for 2 days before the embassy could find us. Wow. And I remember my aunt packing me some mazoe, the wife to the late Mr. Mwerachiwe Sakunda, former clerk of National Assembly and ambassador to Japan. She was packing mazoe and biscuits, and I said, Mayo, don't you know I'm going to Europe? She says, no, where she work off for me. So she sneaked these things. That's what saved us for 2 days. The team we were 3 girls and 3 gentlemen. So now we were eating these biscuits for 2 days until Professor Yamba of the University of Zambia, the one who does climate change, found us. When we go with dollars to the shop to try and buy, they'll just say, "Nyet, rublia, rublia," and we didn't know what rublia was. Yeah. And the others returned at that point because they said, no, this is tough. Then I went to do my preparatory faculty in Rostov-on-Don, at the Rostov-on-Don Medical Institute. And we were on the train for 2 days. Then we arrived in Rostov, and we were taken to the hostel. And there you start work immediately. And the first treatment we had was to take us to a museum and anatomy lab of dead people, from a fetus that was 2 weeks to an old person at 5 years. I just collapsed. Yeah. And because I'd never seen a dead body in my life. And so, but that's supposed to be shock treatment to you. And a lot of people were returning. And I remember at one point calling the ambassador then, the late Sbajeni, may he so rest in peace. I said, why don't you change me to engineering? I can't do I can't do this. Then he says, no, your papers say this and this and this. So just stay there. So Ambassador Sbajeni had to ask the wife to travel to Rostov-on-Don to come and give us counseling. And so you also need support systems around you, people who really care for you. And for me, that's why even when I became the first woman professor, I made sure all the people who were alive, who were diplomats in Russia, who were diplomats in the UK when I was a student, my teachers from secondary and primary school, I invited them because they made who I am. I just didn't land from nowhere and became professor, but I walked a journey. So you need these support systems. Finances are the least of your problems. It's the support system around you. Then another very important thing is you must have mentors. That's why for people like us, we need to be mentoring the young people. And that's why for me, wherever I go, if I see a young person who isn't, like I was in Mambilima the other day, I found this in Mwense, I found this very pretty girl who was giving me the flowers and everything, and says, you know, I love you so much, I would like to be like you. And I was saying to the mother, look, I'd like to mentor this young girl if, for example, when she grows up and I'm alive and she wants to take the journey of the profession that I took. We need mentors. And for me, my mentor was Judge Vesakunda. Because I always used to say, if my aunt did it, then I can also do it. Yeah, so you need mentors, and I think it is very important that you, the young people, start looking up to us. And there's nothing wrong with that, because now there is this notion, no, this is our time, we young people. Even us, we were young people at one time. But if we took that trajectory of saying, because it's my time, I would not be where I am. But I had to learn from the older ones. Walk with them, the journey they walked. Auntie Lombe, what did you do? When you were in Gray's Inn in London, how many people were studying law as women? And the moment she told me, no, in the class I was the only one. And I said, well, my aunt sat alone in that class. Why shouldn't I? You know, so you had mentors. And when it came to politics, I had my own sister, Mrs. Kankas, as a mentor. And I would sit with her. And sometimes I traveled with her when she went for political meetings, just to see what was going on. There's no way you can make it in life without admiring other people, without being mentored by those that have achieved. Because nobody achieves from nowhere. There's always people that support them. But you must also have it in yourself that this is where I want to go. And if you are weak, especially as a woman, you won't make it. And that's why people even say things like, Professor, you're a man. And I tell them, never. Even if I had to die, and God asks me to be born again, I'll ask to be born again as a woman, because I love being a woman and all the things that go with being a woman. How will I be a man and I can't wear lipstick? How will I be a man and I can't do up my hair? So I love to be a woman, and I hate to be likened to the fact that the reason why I'm achieving, I'm like a man. I think that women can achieve more. And I've reminded people, even as I travel around the country, that women are born accountants. So if you have a 50 kwacha as a woman, because of who a woman is, they'll stretch it and feed the children. Women are born managers. They manage homes. And in fact, in homes where a woman becomes a problem, that home won't stand. Women are workers. They will carry a baby on their back. They will be pregnant. They will carry something on their head. They will arrive home while the others are resting. They will be now looking for firewood or whatever. If it's a stove, they will be cooking until everybody is settled. Even after everybody has eaten and gone to bed, the woman will remain trying to tide up. So for me, I've said everywhere that the best thing that can happen to anybody in this world is to be a woman. Even God. That's why God chose Mary to be the mother of Jesus. And even when God in the Bible talks about bringing a companion, God was very strategic. He did not choose the bone of the foot so that men can tread on us. God chose the rib, because the rib is the protector of all the organs of the body. And it's on the side. So God was saying, go into the world side by side. Even when Jesus rose from the dead, he did not wake up to men. He walked up to the women. As he was being crucified, at the bottom was just women who received his body and took it to life. So if women are not proud of being a woman, at least here is one woman who is so proud to be a woman, to be mentored by Mother Mary, and I'm very proud Catholic because we respect Mother Mary. And yeah, that's it. So women, we are a different species in the world. And in case there are women who are listening to me who don't love themselves, they better from 8th of March on Monday start realizing that they are an important being in the world. God would have chosen Joseph to be the mother to Jesus because men don't get pregnant. Virgins don't get pregnant. But God chose Mary, who was a virgin, to get pregnant. He had a message for us that I've chosen this woman because these are an important gender. And let's be proud of who we are. Let us support each other. Let us work together and make sure that we achieve, that we can achieve. There's no job, Nakiwe, where it's written that this job is for the man. Nowhere. And our friends started a long time ago. When I was in Russia, women were driving trains, they were driving underground trains, they were driving buses, they were flying planes. Why are we still behind? Why aren't our girls getting to become pilots? Why aren't our girls getting to drive taxis? Yeah? I'm very proud of the Vice Chancellor of Copperbelt University because that Vice Chancellor has chosen a woman for his driver.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
So there are things we can do, and I think I would like to challenge the women because that is the theme for this year.
Yes.
That we need to really change our mindset, and we need to come together and do great things. Women can do great things.
Absolutely. Honorable Minister, now this brings us to the discussion about your political journey. You mentioned earlier that the late President Sata is the one that, is it he the one that encouraged you to enter into politics?
The second time, but the first time I was encouraged by the late President Chiluba.
Oh, okay.
I actually got a phone call from him, may he so rest in peace, when I became, before I became professor. I think he had been following my events, even came and visited the Tacinta program, which we were very grateful for a president to come all the way to come and visit Tacinta program. He then called me one day. In fact, I was running a workshop and says, can I come to State House to come and have a cup of tea? So I went to State House and he told me he has a lot of admiration for me. And even if when we were writing the health chapter of the manifesto, for MMD, I did express that I want to be a professor first, and I don't want to get into politics, but he's been following my career and so on. He would like to appoint me as a minister in his government. And I paused for a minute, then I told him, I said, Your Excellence, in fact, those days we used to call him Mr. President. I said, I've always wanted to be a professor. And I'm just about to become a professor. So I wouldn't really, I still stand by what I had said earlier when he was appointing his first cabinet, that I would like to become a professor, because that has been my dream. And that's what I was talking about, determination. And never to backtrack because something attractive has come, you jump. But for me, I wanted to be first woman professor. I was first microbiologist, first immunologist, so I wanted to be the first woman professor. So we had a cup of tea and I left. Then when I became professor, because it was all over the news, television, he then called me. He says, you have wanted to be professor? Now you're professor, so can I appoint you? I told him, I said, Your Excellency, I'm a very highly opinionated person. And what I would like you to offer me is a constituency, so that when you fire me, I'll still have the power from the constituency. So he respected that, and I was actually going to first run as Member of Parliament for Mandevu when there was an opening, but I happened to have gone to teach in Japan, because I had a teaching position every year for 3 months. So I just missed the interviews by 1 day. But I said, look, I'm quite happy at, because we said, but you wanted the constituents, now you had this constituents. So I said, Mr. President, I'm quite happy to continue with the University Teaching Hospital. I'm very passionate about what I do. And so when an opportunity came now for elections in 2006, I'd actually applied for Lusaka Central, but I ended up being given Mandevu. So I stood for elections in Mandevu, and of course was one of the lucky ones that was appointed in government immediately. But I think if you were not too young, you remember the politics of 2001. The president wanted to run a third term.
Yes.
And there were 22 of us who opposed the third term. I was amongst those 22. And I was, of course, fired together with the other people. So I then went back to my profession. So for about 10 years, and I was just in my profession. And of course, I was helping with PF. I was helping mobilize and whatever quietly while I did my work. Then President Sata, because I didn't apply to stand, he then called me and says, Vamayo, I've given you Munali. So that's how. He first asked me in 2006. So I said, look, I have children in Australia, and I've been in government before. There's no money. I mean, the salaries are very low, and I won't be able to pay the fees for my children in Australia, and they were both in Australia. So I'll ask a young sister of mine to stand in Munali, and I'll campaign for her, who was the current Deputy Secretary General of PF, which I did because I promised the president that I would do that. I mobilized the resources and campaigned, and she won the elections. So in 2011, I was offered again Munali, and this time around I accepted. And that's how I then stood for elections in Munali in 2011 and won. And then a few years later, President Sata died. And then we all mobilized around the current president, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. We thought that he was the right person to lead us at that time. And you will remember that Honorable Jean Kapata and I were very vocal and didn't even blink until, you know, we got President Lungu brought in as the president, and we had successful elections. And then I attempted 2016 and again won, and continued, and I've been lucky that all the presidents have seen it fit to give me the opportunity to be part of their cabinet, which I don't take for granted, because there are so many Zambians, the president, and so many MPs the president can appoint to the position of minister. But I've been given this opportunity. But I think what, for me, also what is very, very interesting is the fact that if I add up the two ministerial positions that I served under the Chiluba administration and the 5 portfolios that I've served under the PF administration, it gives me a wealth of experience. And I don't think I can even, again, take it for granted, because they've given me an opportunity to serve in so many ministries, and the experiences are different. And I think the sum total of the different exposures I've had as Minister of Health, as Minister of Communications and Transport, as Minister of Local Government and Housing and Environmental Protection, Minister of Chiefs, Minister of Gender, Minister of Higher Education, now Livestock and Fisheries, really brings a total transformation in terms of the way I think, the way I do things, because the experience I've had is enormous. And I just hope that God can continue blessing His Excellency, the President of this Republic, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and the other two presidents I served, may their soul rest in peace. Because without them, I would not have the experience I've had. So the experience of my professional work and my political work makes who Professor Nkandu Luo is today. And my judgment of many things is really the bedrock, is the experiences that I've had even in the countries where I've traveled. And at this point, I would like to recognize the UN, the different bodies, the UN Women, the WHO, UNICEF, UNDP, UNV, and the USAID, and the Commonwealth Secretariat, and many governments who have given me opportunity to serve them outside Zambia in the different portfolios that I've been given an opportunity to serve. And also many other international groups, like IAVI, where I did a lot of work on vaccines, you know, and so on and so on. And also my colleagues from the University Teaching Hospital, from the University of Zambia, and many other colleagues in other universities who also exposed me to the different aspects, because I've gone and worked and taught in many other universities than the University of Zambia. I've served as an external examiner, especially in Kenya, the University of Nairobi, the Moi University. That makes a human being, because there's very little that somebody can say to me in terms of experience that can pass me. Then I can say, oh yes, when I was in Rwanda, this is what I saw. Or when I was in Kenya, when I was in Seychelles. So, and then you make friends along the way. So I have a lot of international friends. So whenever I'm in England, I'm not short of friends. I always have somebody who takes me out for a drink. When I'm in the US, I'm not short of friends. When I'm in Australia, I'm not short of friends. But let me also take advantage of the fact that my children have been a pillar. My two boys, Mwelo and Kunda, have been a great pillar. And I have boys who are like girls. They check on me, they worry about me, and every time, Mommy, where are you? And so on. And then they brought me the pleasure of the 4 grandchildren.
Excellent, Honorable Minister. And something that I find extremely profound about what you've said is the fact that you were about to be offered a ministerial position by former President Dr. Frederick Chiluba. But you said, I must first conclude, I must become professor, this is my plan, and then afterwards I can consider that. How important is it to self-actualize first before getting into this level of leadership? Because obviously you've held down leadership positions the whole time, but this is a whole new ball game. Politics is a leadership at a different level now. And so we have a lot of politicians, some of whom probably haven't achieved much at personal level before assuming the role of leadership at, you know, at that level, political level. Is it really very important for people to become first before they can aspire to lead others?
Well, for me, I think that is very important. And why it's important for me is that, you know, leadership is something that, that's why people go to school of leadership. Because there are certain things you learn along the way in your own space as a person, as you achieve, that helps you in terms of leadership. And I will actually explain this. If you talk to people who knew me as a young girl, I had bad temper, very bad temper. In fact, I remember when I was promoted as head of pathology and microbiology, and I went home really excited. 2 things happened. I went to my mom, and they were sitting with my late sister, Mrs. Kankas. And I said, Mayo, good news. You know that I've been promoted. I am now head of pathology. My mother says, Nkandu, you know. And then I took my letter of appointment. Then Mrs. Kankasa looked at it and says, do you understand?
Yes.
So, because of the various things I've done at personal level, especially the consultancies that I've done all over the world, interacting with a lot of people made me a totally different person. I was totally transformed. Because my journey, especially when I did HIV work, when I went at community level, it reminded me one thing, that while you sit in your house, enjoying maybe a glass of wine, there's somebody out there who is suffering. It brought to me the reality of life. And therefore, even my tempers went down because I saw the real world. When we live in our homes and you don't go and interact with people at different levels of leadership, you don't understand the world. And when I bring it down to Zambia, you don't understand Zambia. I did one consultancy on behalf of the Irish government where I had to go and count orphans in Northern Province. And I was there for 3 months, and I walked on a daily basis in every district of Northern Province. What I saw, there were times I came back to my room and I cried. You get into a house. Now I even understand why people fight for chitenges. You enter a house, people don't even own a blanket. When it's cold, they put fire at the entrance of their house to warm where they are sleeping. The chitenges we see them wearing during the day, at night are blankets. For everybody who is going into leadership, that is very important. Then you appreciate the people you are dealing with. Many people don't understand me in Munali because I'm very, very strict even as to how resources are used. And when I find people are doing illegal things like, selling people's plots, I say no to that. And people don't understand me. It's because I have seen the world, not only in Zambia, but elsewhere. When I was writing the AIDS program for Nigeria, I wrote it in a place called Bauchi. And if I share with you the experiences there, it is amazing. And I think we need to be a certain level in life before we assume leadership position. Because I cannot even understand the people who go with money and they start dishing money. And I'm sitting there and saying, God, what is that? It's because it's like those who are watching, maybe the ones who are receiving will be happy because they've gone away with 100 kwacha or 200 kwacha. But there are those who are watching who don't have that 100 kwacha. It's like you are showing off. You understand? So for me, I'm very glad that I was very resilient. I wanted to walk the journey that I wanted to walk. And of course, there was also an aspect where I wanted to achieve the highest order that you can achieve as an academician. But to achieve that, I had to do certain things. To become a professor, you must speak at international conferences, you must research, you must do programs. So Tacenta is on my CV, SWAZ is on my CV, and many other things that are organized, people living with HIV, what was called PAUS, which was an organization we formed with Father Kelly, and what is NZP Plus today. All those go on my CV because it's part of my requirements to be a professor. And then I did a lot of consultancies. All that go on my CV. It's not just a thing that you write, but it is a lesson to you and how your life starts shaping. Some of the things I thought I would be doing, I had to stop. Because then I see that the reality of life does not allow me to be doing certain things. For example, I, Nkandu Luo, can never go in the Munali constituency, line up people and start dishing money to them. I can't. It's a principle. It's something I've learned in life, and I'll not be one of those. So I think that leadership is important. If you can't achieve it through your qualifications and experiences, at least go to the school of the Leadership Academy. And I've learned a lot again on leadership from my own young sister, because my young sister, Mrs. Mungomba Mabel, belongs to the Prince of Wales Leadership Academy. And many times she says, "Ah, Nkandu, nyanteni hapa, nyanteni hapa." So the learning continues, and that's what shapes me as a politician and member of parliament for Munali. And of course, those who don't understand me, they speak against me. But that I respect, because everybody is entitled to their opinion. If anybody thinks I'm a monster, fine. But the bottom line is that I'm not a monster. If anybody thinks that I'm mean, fine. But I know that I'm not mean, because those who call me mean have not educated a single child. Today I was telling you that I was brought here by my daughter. That is an adopted daughter that I've sent to school. Today she's a doctor at UTH. And I can mention a lot of other children who I have helped and educated. To this time at UNZA, how many children have I helped? Some of them, I don't even know where they come from, who their parents are, but they were living in my house. I looked after them until I found them places, because they had good results. So for me, anybody who says I'm mean, I'm horrible, I just say I respect your opinion. But I know, and the people who know me know, because when they come to my house, they see the many, many people that I'm helping. And if there is a constituency where the MP has sent a lot of children to college and university, it's Munali, and it speaks for itself.
Wow. Honorable Minister, Professor Nkandu Luo, this has been an amazing hour. It flew by. You may not know that we have actually gone over the time that we have for this program, but we want to thank you profoundly for having taken time to grace the women of substance. Indeed, through the discussion, if there ever was a doubt in anybody's mind that you are a woman of substance, Professor, your work, qualifications, and your journey has definitely spoken for you today. And on behalf of our viewers of the Roundtable Talk and the production team, happy Women's Day again, woman of substance.
Yeah.
Professor.
Thank you so much, and I must thank you for giving me this opportunity to actually grace this particular roundtable. And I can only wish you, all of you, a happy Women's Day. And I hope as we move into 2021, we shall support each other as women. And we as politicians are looking forward to support from the media. Thank you.
Absolutely, Honorable. And just one last thing, just so you can at least be an ambassador for the round table. Just have a cape for you. I've seen you love capes. I've seen you wearing capes a number of times.
Yes.
And also the T-shirt for you, Honorable.
Wow.
So you can remember us on the round table, so that you may come back next time when we call upon you.
Yeah. No, this is good. As minister responsible for livestock,
Yes.
I've changed my dress code when I'm out there. You'll never see me in suits or anything.
Yes.
I'm in T-shirts.
And capes.
So I will enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
And let me also conclude by really thanking the President of this Republic, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, for the opportunity he has given me to serve in his government, but also the people of Munali for voting me twice and representing them in Parliament, but also in government. And if it wasn't for them, I would not be a minister. And let me also thank the late President Sata, the late President Chiluba, for also giving me the opportunity to serve in their governments. But most importantly, let me acknowledge all my colleagues at University Teaching Hospital, the University of Zambia, and the world over in the universities where I've gone and the hospitals where I've worked. And I want to single out my supervisors who supervise my master's degrees, my PhDs, and now the person who will be supervising my postdoctoral at University of Zambia, where I want to pursue public health.
So
thank you.
Learning never ends, does it, Professor?
Thank you. Yeah.
There you have it, our esteemed roundtable viewers. On the Roundtable Talk Women of Substance edition, the Professor Nkandu Luo. Till next week when we feature another guest, my name is Nakiwe Simpungwe, your host. Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been an exciting journey on the Roundtable Talk. We have featured a host of high-profile individuals such as cabinet ministers, permanent secretaries, directors, and a host of other high-profile guests. As we proceed with the Roundtable Talk, we would like to announce that it is now going mainstream. Yes, you heard me right. Going forward, the Roundtable Talk will be broadcast on Millennium TV, Channel 95 on the Topstar decoders, on YouTube, and as always on Smart Eagle's Facebook page. Join me every Thursday at 15:30 hours as I bring to you more and more exciting guests for more information, entertainment, and education. I'm Nakiwe Simpungwe, your host.